Yeah, y'all gonna stop coming in my live talking about this Victor dude, bro. We hooping this year. Y'all gonna see.
Alright team, today we're talking San Antonio Spurs versus Chicago Bulls. Now this was a game I didn't think that the Spurs could lose. I believe this is their second time losing to the Bulls this season, but what do you know, it's the NBA. Before we get into all the negatives, I do want to say there is one positive in the Spurs losing this game, and that boils down to the protected pick coming from the Bulls. With every win, we get better odds at their pick, so the Spurs losing this game kind of helps their odds, but I did think this was a game that they should have won. Now getting into the specifics of the game, there are some things that I do want to talk about. I'm going to go over a few players, not the whole team, but let's just go ahead and get straight into it. Starting with Harrison Barnes. I think he could stay on this team for a little while depending on how the front office thinks of him, but I'm suggesting that Harrison Barnes comes off the bench. And this is not a problem with Barnes, but I think it's more of a compliment because he is a consistent player. Now, if you put him in the starting lineup or the bench, I think you're going to get the same result. It doesn't really matter with Harrison. But when you look at a player like Champagnie, I do think he would fit into that starting lineup a little bit better than Barnes. And you saw Julian stretch as a starter. I think he would be more fit for that lineup. It adds a pure 3-and-D player to that lineup, and I think it helps space out the floor a little bit more. Now, this is not a knock to Barnes. I do think he still needs his minutes, but I think this move would fit the team a little bit better. It kind of cancels out Sochan shooting a little bit more with defenders worried about Champagnie, because although Harrison Barnes is a good three-point shooter, I think Champagnie is a specialist, and that's what we need at this point. So I think you swap Barnes for Champagnie in that starting lineup and things look a little bit smoother, but that isn't all the Spurs' problems. Another thing I want to talk about is Devin Vassell. Now, I know he's been getting a lot of heat recently, and I've been trying to, you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to keep my composure and stay level-headed, not be too emotional about these things. But when you're going against the Chicago Bulls and you shoot 1 for 7 from three-point land, you shoot 5 for 14 and only give us 11 points, and you're the highest paid player on this roster. No free throw attempts, no getting downhill, just not being aggressive at all. Half of his shots come from three-point range, and we know he hasn't been shooting the ball very well. He just needs to get down to the paint. And I don't know how many times we're going to have to say it on the channel about Devin Vassell being more aggressive downhill, not settling, and just being passive at times. We need more out of the highest paid Spur this season. I don't really know what else to say about Devin Vassell besides maybe do you put him back on the bench and see what he does there? Start Castle again? Because I do like what Steph Castle brings as a starter, and right now Devin Vassell's offense isn't making up for his mediocre defense. I'm not even going to talk about the centers because, you know, we've talked about it so much, but Charles Bassey, 13 minutes. You don't really know who's going to play right now. Is it Zach Collins? Is it Charles Bassey? Who knows? Either way, we need a backup center at the end of the deadline. Not going to say too much, but we move on. Jeremy Sochan, 26 minutes. I don't know if this is a minutes restriction, but if it's not, I think he needs to be in the game a little bit more. We need his defense, and I think Sochan needs to be playing around 31 to 32 minutes per game. It could be a minutes restriction thing, being that he was just injured with the back injury. Chris Paul was hooping. I think this is the highest amount he scored as a Spur. And also, Victor Wembanyama. One thing I have said on this channel is the late game execution through Victor Wembanyama. I believe in this game, the last 7 minutes, he didn't score a single bucket. And this downward trend really began with the Trey Jones moving screen. We saw a moving screen where Wemby hit the three, but they called it off because Trey Jones was moving. And then after that is like Wemby didn't score a single bucket. The whole team just shut down after that, and they let the Bulls take over. Again, Mitch's rotations are very sus, but this is just a pattern that we've constantly seen over and over again, so I don't know if it's going to be solved. But we're going to get into some post games and see what the team thinks. But before we do that, I want to talk a little bit about Trey Jones. Trey Jones on the season, I believe, is averaging 3 points per game in about 16 minutes. And I just don't think that's acceptable. I don't know what he brings to the team right now that we can't get from a player like Chris Paul or Stephon Castle. He just doesn't provide enough scoring. He's not a threat on the court. He's really just a facilitator. And whenever you have Chris Paul and Stephon Castle and players that can do that now, where does Trey Jones fit? Because he's not a plus defender. He's solid, serviceable if anything, but he doesn't really do anything to stand out on the court that anybody else on the team can't do. Maybe do you give some Malachi minutes to Trey Jones and bring some more scoring? I don't know. Do you make a move? Do you flip Trey Jones? I think the next video we make is going to talk about Trey Jones and maybe a trade that could package him for something else that we need. But right now, I just don't know where he fits in with this team because it's quite redundant when you have Chris Paul and Steph Castle on this court at the same time as Trey Jones, which again, Mitch's rotations, I don't know what they're doing. But enough about that, just some things we've already talked about. Let's go ahead and get into the post-game interviews. First, let's start off with Wemby and then we'll go to Chris Paul. These aren't very long, so let's see what they got to say.
I guess, respecting the game, I think would be a way to call what happened. Not taking things for granted, respecting what we call the basketball gods, doing the right things, and being smart. I mean, it was tonight. I think it was really a mix of things, and I don't think there was one really area where we were really bad. I mean, of course we had turnovers, but it was a mix of things. But that should be compensated by the effort, and the effort and the attention to details.
Because of how well things have been going for these last two games, does that make these two finishes all the more frustrating? And where's your mental state right now?
Yeah, it's very frustrating. I mean, right now we should have more wins, but we don't deserve more wins, because this is where we're at right now, or this is our level, our maturity, and we need to. And this one is a tough one for sure, but apparently we need those to grow. And yeah, we got to do something. There's gonna be close games. There's gonna be games where we're up. I'm not worried about when we're down, but there's gonna be games when we're up and we got to keep a lead. In the NBA, it's hard, and games are gonna be close and that we need to win.
Last two games, it's been difficult for your team to score in the fourth quarter. Is there what do you see there, and what maybe needs to change?
So I think teams adapt during the game, and maybe we don't. We don't adapt enough. And but it's definitely something I'm gonna work on. Predicting the adjustments of the defense, because right now, for sure we need to have more than one plan. They're gonna have more than one.
Late second half, the Bulls just went on a run and completely shut down the Spurs offense. I don't know exactly what adjustment they made, but it completely took the Spurs out of the game. And now I know Mitch Johnson is no Greg Popovich, but where are the adjustments? This has been a trend as well, along with the rotations. The adjustments just haven't been there. And maybe this is a thing with the team. Maybe Mitch is giving them some adjustments and they're just too rattled to execute anything. But we definitely need to see some more adjustments, because these games have been lost in the fourth quarter. Last year, whenever the team would come out in the third quarter and just look terrible, now it has become the fourth quarter where they just get flustered and turning the ball over and not knowing what to do. They kind of lose their head. So that's going to be something to look forward to. Wemby's obviously frustrated. I do not mean to poop on Devin Vassell, but these games that we've lost, the Spurs are some competent Devin Vassell games away from winning these. I'm trying not to put everything on Devin Vassell, but he is an X factor of this team, and you just can't be dropping 11 points making $27 million or however much money he's making. We just need more out of Devin Vassell. Like I said, it's very frustrating, but I think he will be back. Now, I'm gonna give him till, what's today? January 7th. I'm gonna give him to February. And if he's not back by February, then we're gonna have to consider some of the worst possible outcomes and being maybe trading Devin Vassell. On to Chris Paul. Let me know what y'all think about Wemby's speech or his interview. Chris Paul should have some more fierce and fiery responses to these questions. So let's go ahead and get into them.
What do you tell the guys after that one?
Sooner or later, we're going to get tired of it. You know what I mean? So just down the stretch again, I got to go back and look at it and figure out what I could have done better. Probably got us better shots. But it's tough.
And it's hard, CP. It's not all on you. You're a 40-year-old. The Spurs got to take some initiative because you're not going to be here forever. Y'all got to pick up some of this CP knowledge and get it down. By the end of the season, they should have more of it down.
Late in those moments, collectively, can you guys kind of feel it, where it's maybe slipping away a little bit?
Obviously. That's happened a few games. Yeah. I think right there down the stretch, I did a crossover on Lonzo Ball. There's a savviness in this league that teams do to us at times, and I did a crossover there. We was in a bonus. You think that's a foul. You know what I mean? So it was just, we can't get into that situation where they get a chance to decide if it is or isn't. But yeah, we just got to figure out how to win these games because we work too hard, play too hard, and give ourselves an opportunity night in and night out that we got to find a way to win these games.
It's just a matter of going through it and learning by going through it and maybe taking those lumps.
Yeah, but like I said earlier, I mean, there's no time like the present. Everybody not guaranteed to be here next year. You know, I ain't never been one of those win and learn at the same time. That's the best way to do it.
I think after the last game you said.
Who y'all think he's talking about specifically? Not everybody's going to be here next year. Now, obviously, you have the end of the bench people who really don't know if they're going to be here next year. But I'm talking some of the core guys. You think he was talking about some of the core guys when he said not everybody's promised to be here next year? They might be taking a look at Devin Vassell. Like,
wanted to kind of look a little bit more for your own offense a little bit. Do you feel like you did that the way you wanted to tonight?
Somewhat. You know, I had a talk with one of my friends, you know what I mean? We talked about coming out being aggressive. You know, I think I just got into a routine of finding everybody else instead of, looking for my shot and letting that open up too. So it's a mindset.
Is there like a happy medium balance you're trying to find there?
Yeah, luckily I did this long enough to sort of know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
What are some of the elements of this? Mitch was talking about it, Victor talks about it, like teams impose their will.
Yeah, y'all see it. That's what we keep talking about. We got to figure out where we get that grit from, where we get that impose our will. We got a group of very good guys, you know what I mean? But in order to win these games, you got to it's just a different mentality, a switch that we gotta find and we gotta flip to where we get into these situations that other teams know what to expect, myself included. So I gotta figure out how to, continue to be better defensively and make sure that we have the appropriate fear is what I heard from a coach before. Like going to these games confident but have the appropriate fear regardless of the other team's record.
That was a big pop line. Sure was.
yeah, I don't think they feared the Bulls at all. But like Wemby said, respecting the basketball gods and playing serious every night. And one thing I was thinking about right now while Chris Paul was talking, during the late game situations, I think Wemby learning how to get to the line and stop those runs, kind of like Shea with OKC. Whenever they're in a drought like that, Shea gets to the line and he gets the free points. With Wemby's experience, I think he's going to learn these things, especially with Chris Paul teaching him how to get some easier fouls and just foul bait your way to the line a little bit. Not on no Embiid level, but just something to get the offense kind of going again. But that's all I got for y'all today, man. Y'all be sure to leave a like, comment down below. What was y'all's thoughts on this game? We got the Bucks next, so I'll be sure to recap that one. And until then, I'm out.